Our timeline of human history is not as solid as it seems. Ancient civilizations left behind clues that shatter our understanding of their capabilities. We are about to explore 25 archaeological anomalies that directly challenge the established chronology of civilization. By the end, you will see the past through a completely new lens, one where advanced technology and lost knowledge were real possibilities. We will examine a 2,000-year-old device considered the world's first computer and massive stones cut with impossible precision. This journey is not just about rewriting history books. It is about opening our minds to the vast, unknown potential of human achievement. What does it truly mean to be an advanced society? Off the coast of a small Greek island, a team of sponge divers made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the world of archaeology. In the year 1901, they were seeking refuge from a storm when they stumbled upon the wreck of an ancient Roman cargo ship. Among the marble statues and ceramic wares recovered from the site was a heavily corroded lump of bronze and wood, so encrusted it was initially overlooked. This unassuming object, later named the Antikythera Mechanism, would prove to be one of the most profound scientific artifacts ever found. It was a hand-powered, intricate clockwork device, a complex assembly of precisely interlocking bronze gears housed in a wooden case. For decades, its true purpose remained a mystery, with researchers slowly realizing they were not looking at a simple navigational tool, but at an ancient analog computer of staggering complexity. This device, dating to around 100 years before the Common Era, could predict the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It could forecast lunar and solar eclipses, and even track the timing of ancient athletic games like the Olympics. The mechanism's sophistication is utterly unparalleled in the historical record for over 1,000 years. Modern researchers like Dr. Tony Freeth used high-tech three-dimensional X-ray imaging to peer inside the corroded fragments. They revealed a system of differential gears, a technology so advanced that its next known appearance would not be until the 16th century, inside the first mechanical clocks of the Renaissance. How could such advanced engineering emerge in the ancient world, only to vanish completely from human knowledge for more than a millennium? The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a silent, bronze-geared testament to a lost chapter in human ingenuity, proving that our timeline of technological progress is far from straightforward. It forces us to ask what other advanced knowledge was lost to the sands of time, a question that finds a powerful echo in the very stones of ancient Egypt. Deep within the crypts of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, a stone relief carved in shadow offers a startling vision. It shows what looks unmistakably like a giant, elongated light bulb. Inside this bulb, a snake stretches the entire length, its head positioned at one end, while a cable-like pillar supports the entire structure, connected to a box that some interpret as a power source. This is the so-called Dendera Light, an image that has ignited fierce debate. Could it be that the ancient Egyptians possessed a form of electricity, a technology we believe was not invented for another 2,000 years? Mainstream archaeology offers a different, more symbolic explanation. They see this not as a light bulb, but as a depiction of a lotus flower from which a serpent deity emerges, representing creation myths and cosmic cycles. The pillar is a jed pillar, a symbol of stability, and the snake is the god Harsomptus. It is a beautiful and coherent interpretation rooted in their rich mythology. Yet the visual parallel is so striking that it is difficult to ignore. The components align remarkably well with a Crookes tube, an early type of electrical light. The snake takes the place of a glowing filament, the bulb becomes a glass envelope, and the pillar and box form a perfect stand and power supply. If this alternative view is correct, even in part, it would mean that a civilization capable of such a profound understanding of energy existed in the deep past. This single carving forces a difficult question. Are we simply projecting our modern world onto an ancient symbol, or are we witnessing a literal representation of a technology that was lost? The relief does not exist in a vacuum. It is part of a larger narrative of unexplained achievements, where the very stones of ancient sites seem to defy the tools we believe were available. High in the Bolivian Andes, at an altitude that steals the breath, lies a sprawling complex of shattered stone that defies all conventional understanding. This is Puma Punku, a name that translates to the door of the Puma, and its ruins are a masterclass in architectural impossibility. The site is a field of colossal stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, scattered across the landscape as if by the hand of an angry giant. What makes these ruins so deeply perplexing is not their size, but their mind-bending precision. The stones, carved from incredibly hard andesite and diorite, feature razor-sharp edges, flawless flat surfaces, and complex geometric cuts that look as if they were made by a modern machine shop. They interlock with a system of intricate notches and grooves, fitting together so perfectly that not even a razor blade can slide between them, all without a single drop of mortar. How could a culture dated to around 500 or 600 years after the Common Era achieve such perfection? The local Tiwanaku people are believed to have used stone hammers and copper tools, yet these implements seem utterly inadequate for the task. The andesite stone they worked is nearly as hard as diamond, and the precision of the drill holes and perfectly straight channels suggests the use of advanced saws and diamond-tipped drill bits, technology that simply should not have existed. This is not simple stone carving. It is a form of highly sophisticated engineering, with standardized blocks and repeating design elements that speak to a deep, systematic knowledge. The craftsmanship is so advanced that it appears to have emerged fully formed, with no evidence of a gradual evolution of skill. This sudden peak of technological genius, followed by its complete disappearance, shatters the smooth curve of human progress we so often take for granted. It forces us to consider whether this knowledge was developed in isolation, or if it was perhaps a legacy from a much older, forgotten civilization. From these impossibly precise stones in South America, our search for lost timelines leads us north to a Central American metropolis where the very streets were laid out in alignment with the cosmos. A silent city of stone lies in the Mexican highlands, a metropolis so vast and meticulously planned it was once believed to be the place where gods were born. This is Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, and its ruins whisper of a civilization possessed of an almost supernatural sense of order. Built between 100 years before the Common Era and 250 years after, its grandeur is undeniable, with the massive pyramid of the sun dominating the landscape. But the true mystery of Teotihuacan is not found in any single structure, but in the very ground upon which it was built. The entire city is a perfect geometric grid, a masterwork of urban planning laid out with a precision that seems to defy its ancient origins. Its central axis, the Street of the Dead, is not aligned to true north like so many other ancient sites. Instead, it is offset by exactly 15.5 degrees. This is not a random error. This specific orientation aligns the city with the setting of the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker of profound importance to cultures across the Americas. The three great monuments, the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent Quetzalcoatl, are positioned in a perfect cosmic relationship with each other and the surrounding mountains, mirroring a sacred landscape in the heavens. The builders achieved this with such mathematical exactness that the angles and distances between these structures reflect complex geometric principles, including the value of pi and the proportions of the golden ratio. This was not merely a place for people to live. It was a vast stone and mortar calendar, a machine for aligning human life with the cycles of the cosmos. And yet, the people who designed and built this architectural marvel left behind no written records, no royal tombs, no clear explanation of their identity or their methods. How did a society without a known writing system encode such advanced astronomical and mathematical knowledge into the very bones of their city? The silent perfection of Teotihuacan stands as a haunting enigma, a testament to a source of knowledge so profound and so complete that it challenges our most basic assumptions about the development of science. From this planned city of cosmic alignment, our journey takes us to a place where the stones themselves were moved with a power that remains utterly inexplicable. In the heart of modern Lebanon stand the ruins of Baalbek, a place where the scale of ancient engineering becomes almost incomprehensible. The Romans built a magnificent temple complex here, but they were not the first master builders on this site. Beneath their grand structures lies a foundation of truly colossal stones, a platform of megaliths that defies all logic. The largest of these is the stone of the pregnant woman, a single block of limestone estimated to weigh 1,000 tons. To put that into perspective, that is the weight of 2 fully loaded jumbo jets, and this is not the only one. There are others just as massive nearby. The Romans themselves built upon these gargantuan foundations, but they left no record of who placed them there or how such a feat was accomplished. The origins of this foundational layer are a complete mystery, lost to a past far older than the Roman Empire. How does a civilization without cranes or engines quarry a stone taller than a 4-story building, move it over a mile from its quarry, and then lift it into place with other blocks, fitting them together with such precision? Mainstream explanations suggest an army of workers using wooden rollers, ramps, and levers. Yet, the sheer physics involved pushes even these labor-intensive methods to their absolute limit, if not beyond. The coordination, the logistics, and the sheer force required seem to belong to a different age entirely. This has led to more speculative ideas, from forgotten lifting technologies to the use of sound or vibration to somehow make the massive stones lighter, easier to move. Whether through superhuman effort or a lost science, the Baalbek megaliths stand as a permanent question mark in the timeline of human achievement. They represent a level of organization and skill that we struggle to explain, inviting us to look at other sites where stone was not just moved, but seemingly persuaded to become architecture itself. The methods used at Baalbek seem almost industrial in their scale, but in the highlands of Ethiopia, we find a feat of engineering that is equally staggering in its delicate precision. Here in the town of Lalibela, an entire complex of 11 churches was not built from the ground up, but excavated directly downward from the living rock. Imagine standing on a vast plain of solid volcanic stone and commanding workers to carve a cathedral, not by adding blocks, but by removing everything that is not the cathedral. This is exactly what was achieved in the 12th century, creating a network of monolithic churches connected by a labyrinth of tunnels and trenches. The most famous of these, the Church of St. George, is a perfect cross 30 feet deep with its roof level with the surrounding ground. The architectural complexity is breathtaking. Inside, you find perfectly carved pillars, arched windows, and intricate decorative friezes, all sculpted from a single, continuous piece of stone. A sophisticated drainage system was even channeled through the rock to protect the structures from the torrential rainy seasons. The official history tells us this was the work of thousands of laborers using hammers, chisels, and incredible devotion. Local legend, however, offers a more mystical explanation that a host of angels worked alongside the masons each day, completing the work with supernatural speed. While the angelic story is beautiful, the reality of the human achievement is perhaps even more profound. The project required a master plan of immense foresight, a deep understanding of structural integrity to prevent collapse, and project management skills to coordinate the simultaneous carving of multiple structures. This was not random quarrying, it was a form of subtractive architecture on a grand scale, requiring the builders to visualize the final, hollowed-out form while surrounded by solid rock. Lalibela stands as a powerful reminder that peaks of technological and organizational genius were not confined to Europe or the Middle East. They flourished in Africa, demonstrating a localized mastery that challenges any simple, linear narrative of global progress. The sheer effort encapsulated in these stones speaks of a civilization with a powerful vision and the advanced knowledge to execute it. As we contemplate these wonders carved in isolation, we begin to find clues that suggest the ancient world was far more interconnected than we ever believed. A single silver coin, smaller than a thumbnail, was unearthed from a prehistoric shell heap on the coast of Maine. This was the Maine penny, and its origin was unmistakably Norse, minted during the reign of King Olaf Kyrre between 1065 and 1080. Its discovery in a 12th century Native American settlement sent a quiet tremor through the archaeological community. We know the Vikings built a small outpost at Elance Oaks Meadows in Newfoundland around the year 1000. But this coin was found over 1,000 miles to the south, far from any known Norse settlement. How did it travel such a vast distance to end up in a Wabanaki shell midden? The most plausible explanation is not of a Viking longship sailing into a Maine harbor, but of something perhaps even more revolutionary: long-distance trade networks that spanned the North American continent. The coin could have been left at Elance Oaks Meadows, then slowly passed from hand to hand, tribe to tribe, through generations of indigenous trade, moving south over decades until it finally came to rest in that coastal heap. This tiny artifact suggests that the Viking footprint in the New World, however brief, sent ripples far deeper into the continent than we ever imagined. It forces a dramatic rethinking of pre-Columbian history, painting a picture of a world already interconnected, where a piece of Scandinavian silver could become a curiosity or a talisman for a Native American hundreds of years before Columbus set sail. If a simple coin could cross an ocean and a continent, then what other knowledge might have traveled with it? This question of lost geographical knowledge finds its most stunning expression not in a coin, but in a map that should not exist. A chart drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis presents a geographical puzzle that seems to defy the very history of exploration. This map, a fragment of a larger world chart, depicts the coast of South America with a clarity that European cartographers would not achieve for decades. Yet its most staggering feature lies farther south, a landmass that many believe represents the continent of Antarctica. The shocking part is not its inclusion, but its depiction. The map shows a coastline, that of Queen Maud Land, with a shape that closely matches subglacial surveys of the continent beneath its mile-thick ice cap. This is a coastline that has been buried under ice for millions of years, a land that was not officially discovered until 1820. Admiral Reis himself noted that his work was a compilation, pieced together from many older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This suggests the original cartographers possessed a knowledge of the world that, according to our established timeline, was utterly impossible. They must have been part of a seafaring culture with the ability to navigate the globe and chart lands that history says were unknown. Mainstream explanations suggest the southern land is a lucky guess or a misrepresentation of a Patagonian coastline, but the precision of the fit is difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. This single piece of parchment forces a radical question. Could an advanced prehistoric civilization have mapped the entire planet during a time when Antarctica was free of ice, leaving only fragmented copies of their knowledge to echo through the ages? The Piri Reis Map is a ghost, a cartographic memory of a world that should not have been known. It implies a level of global awareness that shatters the conventional story of discovery, pointing toward a forgotten age of explorers whose achievements were lost to time. This idea of lost technology is not confined to maps, but finds a strange, tangible form in a simple clay jar from the deserts of Iraq. Deep within the archives of the National Museum of Iraq rests a simple clay pot, an artifact so unassuming that its true nature was overlooked for decades. This is the Baghdad Battery, a collection of artifacts discovered in the 1930s near the city now known as Baghdad. Dated to between 200 years before the Common Era and 200 years after, each one consists of a 5-inch-tall clay jar containing a copper cylinder, sealed at the bottom with asphalt, and an iron rod suspended perfectly inside the cylinder, also insulated by an asphalt stopper. To the modern eye, the design is unmistakable. It is the core components of a simple galvanic cell. When an acidic electrolyte, like vinegar or grape juice, is poured into the jar, a chemical reaction occurs between the dissimilar metals, generating a small electric current of about 1 to 2 volts. This is not a theory, it is a proven fact replicated by numerous experimenters. A single jar produces a faint tingle, but connecting several in a series could have created a usable voltage. So what was its purpose? The most compelling theory suggests it was used for electroplating, the process of depositing a thin layer of one metal, like gold, onto the surface of another, like silver. This would explain the existence of exquisitely gilded ancient artifacts that show no signs of the mercury-based fire gilding common at the time. Alternatively, it could have served a medical purpose, providing a mild electric shock for pain relief, a practice documented in ancient Greek and Roman texts using electric fish. Skeptics propose it was merely a secure storage vessel for important religious scrolls, with the iron rod acting as a core and the copper cylinder as a protective case. But if that were the case, why the intricate asphalt seals designed precisely to isolate the two metals from each other? Why construct a perfect chemical cell if its only function was to hold a piece of parchment? The Baghdad Battery forces a profound reconsideration of ancient technological capability. It suggests that the fundamental principles of electricity were not just observed in lightning or static, but were actively harnessed in a controlled chemical experiment over 1,000 years before scientists like Volta and Galvani began their own pioneering work. This is not about powering a city, but about the spark of an idea, a foundational concept that could have been the seed for a technological tree that was never allowed to grow. It stands as a quiet, clay-bound testament to a path not taken, a lost current of knowledge. And if such a subtle technology could vanish so completely, what other sophisticated processes might have been applied to the very stones of the ancient world? High in the Andes, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman guards the old Inca capital of Cusco with a silence that speaks volumes. Its walls are a breathtaking puzzle, constructed from enormous blocks of limestone, some weighing as much as 200 tons. But it is not their size that baffles engineers today, it is their fit. These are not simple, rectangular blocks. They are irregular polygonal shapes, each one uniquely carved with complex angles and protrusions, locking into its neighbors with a jigsaw-like perfection. The seams between these colossal stones are so flawless that you cannot slide a single piece of paper between them. and this was all accomplished without a single drop of mortar. The surfaces are not just cut, they appear softened, as if the stone itself was made pliable, molded into place before hardening for eternity. How did the Incas of the 15th century achieve this with simple stone hammers and bronze tools? The conventional tools we attribute to them seem utterly inadequate for such a task. This has led to more speculative theories. Perhaps the builders used plant-based acids derived from local vegetation to chemically soften the surface of the stone, allowing them to shape it with greater ease. Other proposals suggest a lost method involving focused heat, rapidly applying and cooling thermal energy to make the stone more workable. These are not just simple walls, they are a masterclass in seismic engineering. Their intricate, interlocking design makes them incredibly resistant to the powerful earthquakes that frequently shake the region, a feature that has kept them standing for centuries while modern buildings crumble around them. This was not merely construction, it was a profound dialogue with the landscape, a technology that understood the very forces of the earth. The walls of Sacsayhuaman stand as a permanent challenge, forcing us to ask if we have underestimated the Inca or if we are witnessing the legacy of a much older, forgotten school of engineering. From these impossibly fitted stones in the mountains of Peru, our search for lost knowledge drifts across the vast Pacific Ocean to a tiny, isolated island where hundreds of colossal stone figures stand in silent vigil. Far out in the Pacific Ocean, on the island of Pohnpei, a city of ghosts rises from a shallow lagoon. This is Nan Madol, a sprawling network of 92 artificial islands, a silent metropolis built not on solid ground, but upon countless basalt logs stacked like colossal firewood across the tidal flats. These are not small stones. Each of these prismatic columns is a piece of the island's volcanic core, weighing many tons, and they were quarried from the other side of the island before being transported through dense jungle and treacherous water to this specific site. The precision of the construction is staggering. The massive logs are stacked in crisscrossing patterns, layer upon layer, creating foundations and walls that have withstood centuries of typhoons and tidal surges. The entire complex is laced with a system of canals, earning it the name the Venice of the Pacific. Yet, according to the historical record, the Sordelor people who built this around 800 years ago possessed no metal tools, no wheels, and no system of writing. How could such a society possibly coordinate the quarrying, transportation, and architectural engineering required for a project of this immense scale? The local oral tradition offers a compelling, if mysterious, explanation. It speaks of two powerful magicians, Olasipa and Olasopa, who used a sacred spell to command the basalt columns to fly through the air, guiding them into place to build their ceremonial capital. While we may dismiss the literal idea of levitation, this legend likely preserves a cultural memory of a sophisticated and now forgotten technology. The reality may have involved an incredible mastery of logistics, using rafts, ropes, and buoyancy to move the stones during high tide, combined with a profound understanding of stable, interlocking architecture. Nan Madol stands as a monumental paradox, a city that demonstrates a level of social organization and engineering prowess that seems completely detached from the tools and methods we traditionally attribute to its builders. It forces us to reconsider the capabilities of Pacific Island civilizations, suggesting a peak of achievement that has since faded into myth and legend. From this waterlogged city of stone, our search for inexplicable creations lifts its gaze, soaring high above the deserts of Peru to witness figures so vast they can only be comprehended from the heavens. Scattered across the arid plains of southern Peru, an immense gallery of art lies invisible from the ground. These are the Nazca Lines, a collection of hundreds of geoglyphs carved into the dark desert pavement by the careful removal of sun-bleached surface stones. Created by the Nazca culture over a 1,000-year period beginning around 500 years before the Common Era, the figures depict a stunning array of forms. A hummingbird with wings outstretched over 250 feet, a spider with anatomically perfect legs, a monkey with a spiraling tail, and a killer whale swimming through a stone sea are just a few of the enormous designs. Alongside these biomorphic shapes are vast geometric patterns, clean trapezoids and straight lines that run for miles, cutting across the landscape with unwavering precision. The true scale and perfection of these forms can only be comprehended from high above, a fact that has fueled endless speculation. How did a people who lived 2,000 years ago design and execute such colossal artwork without the ability to fly? How could they ensure the proportions of a 500-foot pelican remained perfect when they could never see it in its entirety? One compelling theory suggests the Nazca possessed simple but highly effective surveying techniques. They may have used a series of stakes and ropes to plot out the large geometric lines and shapes from a central point, scaling up small models drawn in the sand. This method is entirely plausible with the technology of the time, yet the sheer ambition and flawless execution over such a vast, uneven terrain still inspires awe. Other researchers point to astronomical alignments, proposing the lines acted as a giant celestial calendar, marking the rising and setting of the sun, moon, and stars for agricultural or ritual purposes. A more grounded theory connects the lines to the most precious resource in the desert, water. Many of the longest lines and largest trapezoids point directly toward subterranean water sources in the distant Andes, suggesting they may have served as ritual pathways for water ceremony processions or as sacred maps of an invisible hydrological network. The purpose of the Nazca Lines likely wove together all these elements, ritual, astronomy, and water worship, into a single landscape-scale tapestry of belief. They stand as a testament not to alien architects, but to the profound human capacity for observation, patience, and organization. They prove that a culture does not need advanced machinery to alter the face of the earth on a monumental scale, only a unified vision and a deep, intimate knowledge of their world. This mastery of the land through careful observation finds a strange parallel in an object of stunning clarity and mystery, a crystal skull that seems to defy the very tools that carved it. A polished sphere of pure quartz crystal catches the light, its surface so flawless it seems to be formed of frozen water rather than carved stone. This is the world of the crystal skulls, artifacts like the famed Mitchell Hedges skull, which emerged from the shadows of Central American ruins with a story that challenges everything we know about ancient craftsmanship. Allegedly discovered in a Mayan temple in the 1920s, this life-sized skull, complete with a detachable jaw, is a masterpiece of optical clarity. Its surfaces are impossibly smooth, with no visible tool marks from grinding or polishing, and it exhibits properties that, according to some researchers, would have required hundreds of years of continuous, patient work using the primitive tools we attribute to the Maya. The mystery deepens when we consider the material itself. Quartz crystal is a 7 on the Mohs hardness scale, meaning it is harder than steel. To carve it with such perfection typically requires diamond-tipped tools and modern rotary equipment, technology that simply did not exist in the pre-Columbian Americas. While many other crystal skulls have been definitively exposed as 19th-century hoaxes, cleverly carved by European artisans to feed a growing fascination with the exotic, a handful of specimens, including the Mitchell Hedges skull, stubbornly resist easy explanation. They show no microscopic evidence of modern tool marks, and their precise origins remain shrouded in uncertainty. If even one of these objects is genuinely ancient, it points to a lost school of lapidary art, a civilization that possessed an almost supernatural understanding of crystal's properties and how to manipulate it. Were these skulls merely symbolic carvings, or did their creators understand something deeper about piezoelectricity, the ability of quartz to hold an electrical charge? This enigma forces us to walk a fine line between myth and history, where a single artifact can tempt us to rewrite the past. It reminds us that our understanding of ancient technology is often limited by what we are willing to believe possible. From these enigmatic crystals, we turn to a different class of artifact where the mystery is forged not in stone, but in metal that should not have existed. A testament to ancient metallurgy stands gleaming in the heart of India, defying the very laws of nature. The iron pillar of Delhi rises 23 feet high, a solid shaft of wrought iron forged in the 4th century. Yet it shows almost no sign of rust after more than 1,600 years of monsoons, humidity, and scorching heat. This is not a small artifact kept safe in a museum. It is a colossal monument exposed to the elements, and its pristine condition is a scientific marvel that should not be possible. Modern steel, left in similar conditions, would have long ago corroded into a brittle, reddish shell. The secret was only uncovered through modern chemical analysis. The ancient metalworkers used a process that created an iron of exceptional purity, with a very low carbon content but a remarkably high percentage of phosphorus. During the forging process, this phosphorus, along with iron and oxygen, formed a thin, invisible protective layer called mesawite. This passive film acts as a barrier, preventing water and oxygen from reacting with the metal beneath it. It is a self-healing layer, so any minor scratch or damage is naturally sealed over time. The knowledge required to achieve this is staggering. It implies a sophisticated understanding of chemical composition and a masterful control over the smelting and forging process, techniques that were not thought to exist in the ancient world. This was not a lucky accident. It was a deliberate technological achievement on an industrial scale. The pillar's very existence forces us to ask what other advanced industrial arts were perfected in antiquity, only to be forgotten in the wake of social collapse or changing times. How many other formulas and processes were lost, leaving behind only a few inexplicable objects as silent witnesses to their genius? This single iron column challenges the entire timeline of metallurgical progress, suggesting that a peak of material science was reached and then abandoned, a ghost in the machine of history. From this indestructible monument of metal, our search for lost knowledge turns upward to a site where the stones themselves are aligned with the cosmos. The silent, geometric perfection of the Giza Plateau holds a secret written in the stars. While we see 3 great pyramids, an ancient Egyptian astronomer would have seen something else entirely, a perfect mirror of the celestial belt of the constellation Orion. This is not a vague resemblance. The layout of the pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure matches the 3 stars of Orion's belt with a startling precision, including their relative sizes and their distinctive offset alignment, where one star is slightly askew from the line of the other 2, just as the pyramid of Menkaure is offset from the line of its larger companions. This celestial map is made even more compelling by the Nile River, which seems to intentionally mirror the Milky Way flowing beside the constellation in the sky. The so-called Orion correlation theory proposed by researcher Robert Bovell pushes this mystery even deeper into the past. He points to the phenomenon of precession, the slow, wobbling rotation of the Earth's axis that causes the positions of the constellations to gradually shift over a cycle of 26,000 years. Bovell calculated that for the pyramids on the ground to perfectly match the stars in the sky, the plan would have had to be conceived not around 2,500 years before the Common Era when they were built, but around 10,500 years before the Common Era, a time when the belt stars were at their lowest point in their precessional cycle. This single idea, if true, would shatter the foundation of Egyptian history. It suggests the pyramids were not merely tombs for 4th dynasty pharaohs, but the culmination of a project planned by a vastly older, sophisticated civilization that possessed an advanced understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and the slow dance of the cosmos, a knowledge then preserved and executed millennia later. Mainstream Egyptology, of course, offers a different view. They argue that the ancient Egyptians were brilliant observational astronomers who could have achieved this alignment through simple, patient stargazing over generations, and that the correlation, while fascinating, is ultimately a coincidence amplified by our pattern-seeking mind. Yet the precision is difficult to dismiss. It forces a profound question. Were the pyramids the grand final act of a lost age, a permanent monument designed to encode a message from a forgotten time? This celestial connection carved in stone is not unique, as another ancient culture encoded the same cosmic patterns directly into the earth itself. The same celestial dance observed at Giza finds an equally profound expression on the misty green hills of Ireland. Newgrange is a massive, circular mound of earth and stone, a passage tomb constructed over 5,000 years ago. That date, around 3,200 years before the Common Era, makes it older than Stonehenge and even the Great Pyramid of Giza. For most of the year, its inner chamber is a place of deep, silent darkness, but for a few precious minutes at dawn on the winter solstice, something miraculous happens. A slender beam of sunlight penetrates a specially constructed opening above the entrance, known as a roof box. This shaft of light travels down the 60-foot-long passage, gradually illuminating the central chamber in a golden glow that lasts for approximately 17 minutes before fading away. This is not a random occurrence. It is a meticulously engineered astronomical event, a feat that required generations of precise observation and a sophisticated understanding of solar cycles. The builders needed to calculate the exact angle of the sun's path on the shortest day of the year, and then construct a stone corridor and roof box to capture that specific, fleeting light. The engineering itself is a marvel. The passage is constructed with massive, intricately carved curbstones, and the chamber features a corbelled roof where stones are layered inward in a spiral until they meet at the top, forming a stable, waterproof vault that has survived for millennia. This was not the work of simple farmers. It speaks of a highly organized society with specialized architects, astronomers, and project managers, capable of coordinating labor and knowledge on a grand scale. Newgrange stands as a powerful testament to the intellectual dawn of humanity, proving that the drive to encode cosmic knowledge into architecture emerged simultaneously across the globe, in cultures we are only beginning to understand. This deep human impulse to leave a mark, to communicate across time, finds its most primal and personal expression in a series of caves where ancient hands reached out from the darkness. A stone can hold a secret far stranger than any fossil. In 1961, while searching for geodes near the mountain town of Olancha, California, 3 collectors cracked open what they thought was a common nodule. Inside, instead of a cavity lined with crystals, they found a perfectly circular section of a hard, white material surrounding a 2-millimeter metal core. The entire object was mounted within a hexagonal casing that had visibly corroded. To any modern eye, it was unmistakable, a spark plug. The controversy erupted when the geode in which it was encased was allegedly dated to over 500,000 years old. Dubbed the Coso Artifact, this object became an instant sensation. If it were authentic, it would mean that a piece of 20th century technology was somehow sealed inside a stone that formed at a time when early humans were just beginning to use simple stone tools. The implications were staggering, pointing to time travelers, a lost advanced civilization, or a radical rewriting of human history. Skeptics, however, quickly offered a more mundane explanation. They identified the object as a champion spark plug from the 1920s, a common model used in early automobiles and mining equipment. The so-called geode, they argued, was not a geode at all, but a concretion of hardened mud and iron oxide that had accumulated around the lost plug over just a few decades, a natural process that can create a convincing stone-like shell. This rational interpretation effectively debunked the artifact for most scientists. Yet, the story of the Coso artifact endures not as proof of an impossible past, but as a perfect case study in how we interpret anomalies. It highlights the powerful human tendency to see what we want to see, to project our own world onto the mysteries of the past. But it also underscores a more positive impulse, the drive to question, to not dismiss the strange out of hand, but to investigate it. This single, peculiar object encapsulates the entire debate between mainstream skepticism and alternative history, a battle fought over a lump of rust and clay. It reminds us that the boundaries of time are not always clear, and that the line between a revolutionary discovery and a simple misidentification can be incredibly thin. The search for such lost knowledge often feels like chasing ghosts, but sometimes those ghosts were librarians, guarding the greatest collection of wisdom the ancient world had ever known. Locked away in a vault at Yale University is a book that refuses to be read. The Voynich Manuscript is a 240-page codex from the 15th century, filled from edge to edge with a flowing, unknown script that has defied every attempt at translation for over a century. Its pages are a gallery of the bizarre, illustrated with plants that have no known biological counterpart, intricate astronomical charts featuring unfamiliar constellations, and drawings of tiny, nude women bathing in a system of interconnected green pipes. Every element is rendered with a confident, consistent hand, suggesting the author was describing a real, coherent world, yet not a single word or image can be definitively matched to any known language or culture on Earth. The very consistency of its alien content is what makes it so deeply unsettling. This is not the work of a madman scribbling nonsense. The script follows distinct linguistic patterns, with a recognizable syntax and word frequency that mimics a real language. It possesses all the hallmarks of a genuine, systematic text, perhaps a pharmacopoeia of unknown herbs or a treatise on a forgotten branch of natural philosophy. But if it is real, what civilization produced it? This single book single-handedly challenges the entire timeline of scientific and linguistic development in medieval Europe. How could such a detailed and complex work exist in a vacuum, with no cultural precursors or descendants? The most tantalizing theories suggest it is a relic of a lost advanced civilization, preserving knowledge that was later suppressed or simply vanished. Others argue it is an incredibly elaborate medieval hoax, a meaningless cipher created to deceive a wealthy patron. Yet, if it is a hoax, the amount of effort involved is staggering, and the motivation remains utterly unclear. Even modern artificial intelligence has been brought to bear on the puzzle, with algorithms proposing possible links to Hebrew or other known languages. But these leads have so far failed to produce a coherent, accepted translation. The Voynich Manuscript endures as the ultimate symbol of the gaps in our historical record. It is a silent scream of lost information, a physical reminder that the past is not a neatly shelved library, but a landscape littered with fragments of books we no longer know how to open. It forces us to confront a humbling possibility that entire systems of knowledge, entire ways of seeing the world, could have been erased so completely that their last surviving trace is a beautiful, impenetrable mystery. This profound sense of lost science extends beyond cryptic texts into the very stones of ancient temples that some believe were designed to channel the unseen energies of the earth itself. The Great Pyramid of Giza might have been far more than a royal tomb. Some researchers propose its design reveals a profound, almost unbelievable purpose, that it was a massive energy-generating structure. They point to its precise alignment with the cardinal directions, an orientation so exact it resonates with the Earth's own magnetic fields. The pyramid's inner chambers and unique construction materials, including the granite used in the king's chamber, are believed to possess specific acoustic and piezoelectric properties, meaning they could generate an electrical charge under mechanical stress. The very geometry of the pyramid, its unique slope angles and internal proportions, are thought to act as a kind of lens capable of focusing electromagnetic energy into its central chambers. Theoretical models and scaled experiments have shown that the pyramid's shape can indeed concentrate microwave and radio wave energy within its internal rooms and beneath its base. Could this explain why no mummy or grave goods were ever found in the Great Pyramid? Proponents of this theory argue it was not a sepulchre but a power plant, perhaps using the flow of water through its subterranean passages to create vibrations, or harnessing the Earth's natural telluric currents to produce and transmit energy. Mainstream archaeology firmly dismisses these ideas as pseudoscience, pointing out the complete lack of physical evidence for such machinery and reasserting the well-established funerary context of the pyramids. Yet the theory persists, forcing a radical question. If even a fraction of this is true, it would mean the ancient Egyptians possessed a sophisticated understanding of physics and electromagnetism that rivals our own modern science. This single structure would then stand as a monument not to death, but to a lost technological zenith, challenging the very core of our historical timeline. It pushes us to look at other ancient artifacts not as primitive trinkets, but as potential components of a forgotten world. This idea of a lost world becomes startlingly concrete when we find evidence of ancient humans interacting with creatures that should have been extinct long before their time. A collection of stones in a small Peruvian museum presents one of archaeology's most polarizing puzzles. The Ica Stones, thousands of andesite rocks collected from the 1960s onward, are covered in intricate engravings that depict scenes which should not exist. Humans are shown in direct, familiar contact with creatures we recognize as dinosaurs, some even appearing to ride them like domesticated animals. Other stones illustrate complex medical procedures, including what looks like organ transplants and cesarean sections, alongside detailed maps of the stars and unknown continents. The man who popularized them, a local farmer, later admitted to forging many, casting a permanent shadow of doubt over the entire collection. Yet, the sheer volume of the stones and the consistency of their bizarre iconography keep the debate alive. If they are all hoaxes, they represent a remarkably coordinated and clever effort to deceive. But if even a handful of these stones were found in a verified, ancient geological layer, their implications would be earth-shattering. They would suggest that an ancient civilization possessed a detailed understanding of paleontology, gleaned perhaps from discovering and correctly reconstructing fossilized skeletons, knowledge that was then passed down through oral traditions or lost records. This would mean that the human timeline and the age of the dinosaurs were, in some way, overlapping in human memory, a concept that completely upends our scientific narrative. The story of the Ica Stones is ultimately a cautionary tale about evidence and our desire to believe. It reminds us that the line between a revolutionary truth and an elaborate fiction can be incredibly thin, shaped as much by our own hopes as by the artifacts themselves. This mystery of a potential lost world finds a haunting parallel in the sudden, inexplicable silence of a great American city. The streets of Mohenjo-Daro were not simply abandoned, they were frozen in a moment of sudden, catastrophic violence. When archaeologists uncovered this great city of the Indus Valley civilization, they found a scene that defied easy explanation. Dozens of human skeletons lay scattered in the streets and houses, some holding hands as if struck down mid-flight, with no signs of orderly burial. This was not the aftermath of a slow decline. It was a snapshot of instant death, dating to around 1900 years before the Common Era. The mystery deepens with the physical evidence on the ground. Certain areas of the city showed signs of having been subjected to incredibly intense heat, enough to vitrify bricks and stone, fusing their surfaces into a glass-like slag. Measurements taken at the site have occasionally recorded anomalous levels of background radiation, a detail that, when combined with the vitrified material, has sparked a radical and unsettling theory. Could Mohenjo-Daro have been the target of an ancient nuclear explosion? Proponents of this idea point to ancient Indian texts like the Mahabharata, which describe fantastical weapons called Vimana and Astra, capable of unleashing blasts brighter than 1,000 suns and leaving behind a silence that doomed future generations. They argue that the scattered skeletons, the localized intense heat, and the vitrified stone are all consistent with a powerful, sudden thermal event. Mainstream science offers more conventional explanations, suggesting the city fell to invading Aryan armies, succumbed to a sudden natural disaster like a massive earthquake, or was slowly strangled by ecological change. Yet, the specific nature of the destruction gives pause. The skeletons show no marks of weapons, and the pattern of destruction does not perfectly align with a sacking by an army. The vitrification requires temperatures that ordinary fires cannot produce. This has led to other speculative ideas, including the possibility of a cosmic airburst, similar to the Tunguska event in Siberia, where a meteor or comet exploded in the atmosphere with the force of a nuclear bomb. Whether through a forgotten weapon or a cosmic accident, Mohenjo-Daro presents a haunting tableau of a sophisticated urban civilization that met an end so swift and so violent that its true cause remains just beyond our grasp. It stands as a stark reminder that the end of an age can come without warning, erasing not just lives, but the very knowledge of what occurred. This profound sense of a lost timeline, of civilizations that rose and fell outside our records, finds a different kind of expression in a calendar so precise it seems to count time from a world before our own. The Mayan calendar system was not merely a way to mark the days, but a vast, interlocking machine of time. While their cyclical calendars tracked sacred and solar years, it was the long count that captured the modern imagination, a linear timeline stretching back over 5,000 years to a mythical starting point and culminating in a much-hyped end date in 2012. This was not a prediction of doom, but the completion of a great cycle, much like our own calendar rolls over from one millennium to the next. The true marvel, however, lies in the sheer mathematical and astronomical precision that underpinned this system. Without telescopes or advanced instruments, Mayan astronomer priests calculated the length of the solar year to within minutes of our modern computation. They tracked the complex cycles of Venus with stunning accuracy and understood the concept of 0 centuries before it appeared in European mathematics. This sophisticated knowledge seems to have emerged fully formed during their classic period, between 200 and 900 years after the Common Era. How did a civilization isolated from the rest of the world develop such an advanced understanding of celestial mechanics? The most compelling theory suggests they were not the sole originators, but the inheritors. Their calendar system may have been built upon a foundation laid by an earlier, perhaps even more advanced culture like the Olmecs, whose own achievements are only now being fully appreciated. This possibility shatters the smooth timeline of scientific progress in the Americas, pointing to a deep, forgotten well of astronomical knowledge that was passed down and refined over millennia. The Mayan calendar stands as a testament to the fact that intellectual genius is not the sole property of the modern world, but a flame that has burned brightly in the most unexpected of times and places. This mastery over abstract concepts finds a strange and tangible counterpart in a simple metal object, one that should have been impossible for its time. Deep within the rock of South African mines, workers have unearthed tiny objects that carry a weight far beyond their size. Known as the Klerksdorp Spheres, these small, metallic objects are made of a mineral called pyrophyllite and are dated to an almost incomprehensible 2.8 billion years old. They are perfectly spherical or disc-shaped, many with one or more fine, precise grooves running around their equators as if machined by a lathe. They are so perfectly balanced that some reports claim they will roll on a flat surface with a gentle, consistent motion. To the untrained eye, they look for all the world like tiny, manufactured ball bearings or ornaments. The immediate, breathtaking implication is that an intelligent, tool-using civilization existed on Earth billions of years before the first single-celled organisms even appeared in the fossil record. It is a claim that would shatter not just human history, but the entire timeline of complex life on our planet. Geologists, however, offer a far more sobering explanation. They argue these spheres are natural concretions, formed by the gradual accumulation of mineral cement within sedimentary rock. The perfect grooves, they say, could be the result of softer mineral layers eroding at different rates, while the sphere's balance is simply a product of their uniform crystalline structure. This is a well-documented geological process, and similar objects have been found elsewhere. Yet, the unnerving precision of the grooves and the consistent shapes keep the debate fiercely alive. The Klerksdorp Spheres force us to confront a fundamental question about our past. Are we seeing a pattern where none exists, projecting our own technological identity onto a random act of nature? Or are we holding in our hands a fossilized relic of an intelligence so ancient that its very memory has been erased by geological time? This mystery encapsulates the core challenge of archaeology, the delicate art of distinguishing between a natural wonder and a manufactured artifact. It reminds us that our interpretation of the past is limited by our own imagination and our willingness to accept that the story of this planet might be far stranger than we have ever dared to believe. This question of balance and impossible engineering finds a monumental echo in a place where stones so massive seem to float on air. The sheer weight of the stones at the Coral Castle is enough to crush conventional understanding. In the sweltering heat of Florida between 1923 and 1951, a single man named Edward Leedskalnin achieved the impossible. Working alone, mostly at night, he quarried, shaped, and positioned over 1,100 tons of oolite limestone, carving blocks that weighed up to 30 tons each. He created an intricate complex complete with a 9-ton gate that a child could push open with a single finger, a perfectly accurate sundial, and a 22-ton obelisk. When asked how he managed such a feat, the 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Leedskalnin would only give a cryptic smile, saying he had rediscovered the building secrets of the ancient Egyptians, the very same people who raised the pyramids. He claimed to understand the laws of weight and leverage and the principles of magnetism. He spoke of perceiving the inner structure of matter, seeing every atom as individual magnets spinning in a cosmic dance, a force he could somehow harness. The precision of his work is as baffling as the method. The stones fit together with seamless joints, and the massive gate was so perfectly balanced on a simple truck axle that it rotated without friction for decades, only requiring adjustment after it finally seized in the 1980s. Engineers who examined it were stunned by the lathe-like precision with which the stone pivot hole was carved. How could one man, using only simple tools found in his shed, accomplish what should have required a team of engineers and heavy machinery? The most tantalizing theories suggest Lidskalnin had tapped into a form of lost knowledge, perhaps using acoustic levitation or manipulating the Earth's magnetic fields to negate the weight of the coral blocks. While his achievement is modern, it feels profoundly ancient, a direct bridge to the mysteries of Baalbek and Sacsayhuaman. It stands as a 20th century testament to the possibility that the greatest construction secrets of antiquity were not about brute force, but about a sophisticated understanding of natural forces, a knowledge that one man in isolation might have pieced back together. This modern echo of ancient genius brings our search full circle, returning us to a final, small artifact that whispers of journeys across vast, unknown seas. Carved from the volcanic rock of ancient Mexico, the colossal stone heads of the Olmecs stare out with an inscrutable silence. These monumental sculptures, the largest weighing 50 tons, were hewn from single blocks of basalt and transported over 50 miles without the wheel or domesticated animals. Their creation between 1400 and 400 years before the Common Era is a staggering engineering feat, but the true mystery is etched into their faces. The features are distinct and powerful, with broad noses, full lips, and sometimes what appear to be helmets, leading to a controversial and persistent theory. Do these stone visages depict travelers from across the sea, specifically from Africa, who reached the Americas long before the accepted timeline of global exploration? The mainstream archaeological view holds that these are portraits of powerful local rulers, their features stylized according to Olmec artistic conventions. They see the so-called helmets as ceremonial headgear, symbols of authority worn in a ritual ballgame, yet the possibility of transoceanic contact refuses to fade. If the Olmec heads do represent foreign visitors, their presence would rewrite the narrative of the ancient world. It would mean that the oceans were not impassable barriers, but highways for cultural and genetic exchange thousands of years earlier than our history books allow. This final mystery brings our journey to a powerful close. We have traveled from the gears of an ancient computer to the silent streets of a city frozen in time, from maps of an ice-free continent to walls that fit together like a perfect stone puzzle. Each of these 25 anomalies stands as a crack in the smooth facade of our historical timeline. They are not merely curiosities, they are profound questions carved in stone, metal, and parchment. They challenge the linear progression of technology and the isolation of ancient cultures, forcing us to consider that the story of human civilization is not a straight line, but a complex tapestry woven with threads of lost knowledge, forgotten voyages, and unimaginable genius. The true lesson of these discoveries is not that we have all the answers, but that we must remain humble and endlessly curious. The past is not a closed book, but a living mystery, and every new anomaly is an invitation to look deeper, to question further, and to remember that history is always ready to surprise us. Taken together, these 25 scattered pieces form a startling new picture. The Antikythera Mechanism, the walls of Sacsayhuaman, the Piri Reis Map, and all the others are not isolated curiosities. They are fragments of a single, profound story, one that our standard history books have failed to tell. A clear pattern emerges from the noise, a recurring theme of advanced knowledge, sophisticated technologies, and a level of global interconnection that we never granted our ancestors. These are not just random anomalies. They are the scattered echoes of lost peaks of human achievement, civilizations that reached heights of engineering and science, only to have that knowledge erased by time, catastrophe, or simple forgetting. This evidence forces us to abandon the comforting idea of a straight, upward line of progress. Human history appears more like a series of great waves, with cultures rising to incredible technological and intellectual zeniths, then crashing down, leaving only enigmatic ruins and a few unplaceable artifacts as clues to their true stature. Understanding this cyclical nature requires us to think differently. We can no longer rely solely on the trowel of the archaeologist. The full picture only comes into focus when we combine that digging with the telescope of the astronomer, the equations of the physicist, and the intuition of the engineer. It is a multidisciplinary puzzle where the precise astronomy encoded at Giza and Teotihuacan speaks to the same deep understanding of cosmic cycles, and the impossible masonry at Puma, Punku, and Baalbek suggests a shared, forgotten school of engineering. What does this mean for our future? It means our past is not a closed book but an open frontier. Every one of these anomalies is a key, an invitation to look deeper and question the established narrative. They remind us that history is a living, breathing narrative, constantly rewritten with each new discovery. The greatest chapter of the human story may still be buried, waiting for us to finally read it. These 25 scattered pieces form a startling new picture. The Antikythera Mechanism, the walls of Sacsayhuaman, the Piri Reis Map, and all the others are not isolated curiosities. They are fragments of a single, profound story, one that our standard history books have failed to tell. A clear pattern emerges from the noise, a recurring theme of advanced knowledge, sophisticated technologies, and a level of global interconnection that we never granted our ancestors. These are not just random anomalies, they are the scattered echoes of lost peaks of human achievement, civilizations that reached heights of engineering and science, only to have that knowledge erased by time, catastrophe, or simple forgetting. This evidence forces us to abandon the comforting idea of a straight, upward line of progress. Human history appears more like a series of great waves, with cultures rising to incredible technological and intellectual zeniths, then crashing down, leaving only enigmatic ruins and a few unplaceable artifacts as clues to their true stature. Understanding this cyclical nature requires us to think differently. We can no longer rely solely on the trowel of the archaeologist. The full picture only comes into focus when we combine that digging with the telescope of the astronomer, the equations of the physicist, and the intuition of the engineer. It is a multidisciplinary puzzle where the precise astronomy encoded at Giza and Teotihuacan speaks to the same deep understanding of cosmic cycles, and the impossible masonry at Puma, Punku, and Baalbek suggests a shared, forgotten school of engineering. What does this mean for our future? It means our past is not a closed book but an open frontier. Every one of these anomalies is a key, an invitation to look deeper and question the established narrative. They remind us that history is a living, breathing thing, constantly rewritten with each new discovery. The greatest chapter of the human story may still be buried, waiting for us to finally read it. I would love to hear which of these mysteries resonated most with you. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this journey has sparked your curiosity, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. Thank you for joining this exploration. May it inspire you to look at the world and our place in its long story with fresh eyes and a perpetually curious mind.